All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 15th podcast of company-based HR Evolve HR. And today we have a topic of Agile HR in a nutshell. So we have discussed more about this concept, this methodology called Agile. And nowadays it has been using in whether it is IT sector or HR, marketing, sales. The Agile is very much important nowadays. So to discuss the same, we have two experts available with us at our panel. One, Mr. Pravin Andhale, HR manager from Anuyat, and Preeti Swami, HR generalist from Suma Soft Pvt. So welcome, Pravin and Preeti.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinay, for having us.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Preeti?
I hope everybody is great.
Yes, all of it. So to start with, before going with our questions, I just wanted to know about your journey, Pravin, your journey in the HR. You could talk about your organization, and then I'll just switch it to Preeti as
well. Okay. So to start with, Vinay, let me first say something about my organization. Okay.
Please.
So Anuyat is an IT services company. Mainly, we have the SaaS development services, and we can say, one of the top company which delivers SaaS solutions in the eSIM domain, specifically eSIM domain. So we have clientele from all over the world. Though we have small team, but the niche area that we serve brings us to the very top of the delivery of the services in the SaaS domain. Apart from this, we have the MEP development program, wherein we deliver MEPs for the startups in only 90 days. So that's also the one of the domain in the that we do in the using the agile methodologies, agile techniques. So from this, you can say that we use agile methodology not in the HR only, but across the organization in all of the departments that we have. So my name is Pravin Andhale, and I have been with the Anuyat for last 3 years. Total, I have 5 years of experience, working experience, and I have been into the relationship management, business development, and specifically in HR. The specific domain of the HR, I have introduced to the HR in the IT domain only, IT industry only, and that is just before the start of the pandemic. So, and since then I have also been like you, working from home. And about the agile methodologies that we are going to discuss, I would like to say something like agile, as you all know, maybe everybody who is attending the seminar know that agile is not just the technique or methodology, it's the mindset. And every startup that operates all over the world is inherently in applying the agile methodologies and techniques. And that is what we also try to do in the everyday environment. As we move forward in this webinar, I would discuss more details.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the brief introduction. And Preeti, I just wanted to hear from you as
well. First of all, Vinay, thank you so much for your introduction. I hope you're doing fine.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So introducing about me, my name is Preeti Swami, and currently I'm associated with an organization that is Suma Soft Pvt Limited. So actually, Suma Soft Pvt Limited is an IT organization. We are into IT also, and we are also into BPO services. We are also into software testing, developing, everything. So in short, we are into IT and BPO as well, but majorly I am into IT operations, IT HR operations. So speaking about myself, I'm an HR generalist. Basically, I look after all the HR operations that take place in an organization, like from the onboarding to the exit and all the other things which come into HR. I take care of all those. Previous to this, I was associated with an IT organization, Zmetrics Technologies. So there also basically, all these things have been taken care of. So speaking about my journey, if you talk about, I am, I don't have that many years of experience. But yes, if you talk about today's topic, definitely any HR in this particular domain can correlate, that having an agile HR methodology is very important in all the organizations. So that's all about this. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you for your introduction.
Yeah.
So I'll just start with the questions now regarding this
Mm-hmm.
agile, and we just wanted to understand more about how exactly this agile HR is helping to streamline the HR process. So my first question is, what does agile HR look like, and how can organization adopt agile HR practices? So I mean, Preeti, you can start.
Sure, Vinay. So see, if you speak about agile is not limited up to only the technical terms in this today's era. If you talk about agile, it is just not that a particular technical team or a development team or a software team. Only that team is focused particularly on this entire agile thing. But also we as a human resources can adapt HR. So HR in agile is nothing but there should be a proactivity of taking that adaptiveness and the responsiveness and then function the whole HR functions, whatever are there, be it recruitment, be it operations, be it L&D, be it any other function. Okay, so that is nothing but that is agile HR according to me. And if you talk about how the organizations are adopting agile HR as a technology, if you like ask me, there are many organizations who have halted the traditional methods of human resources, the HR practices, and now they are moving to agile practices. The reason being is it's very much more easier. Okay, so how the organizations can adapt the HR? So if I talk about specifically, the very first thing is that whatever problem has been there, that needs to be first understood. If you're applying an agile HR thing, you should be very particular about understanding that if I'm applying the agile HR, I should at least understand what the problem is, and according to that I should be able to give a solution. And then I should,
Right.
if someone is into a leadership position, they can accordingly just give a particular division, bifurcation of the tasks and responsibilities, and according to that the things can be done. So yes, that's all about me, like what this is agile and how the organizations can adapt to the agile basically.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Pravin, your views, please, on this.
See, according to me, traditional HR doesn't exist anymore because what you can see across the industries, not only in IT, in the different industries, the hiring processes has not only changed, it has revolutionized since the onset of the pandemic. That is what I can say.
Right.
And particularly about, you can say, in the Anuyat, what we have been doing. So we can say that we don't know any other method than agile method of the HR department management specifically. So what I mean by that is we don't have any particular set of requirements at any given time. Requirement is always evolving, not only on monthly or weekly basis, on daily basis it is changing. And I believe that that is true for every organization operating in the remote mode or operating in the current times. So uh, mm, so what I mean by that is the requirement that we have for any particular project or any particular client or delivery of any product. So that is everyday changing because the product requirement is everyday changing. So we need to be able to adapt to every evolving situation. So that is what every startup does, and that is what we as an startup and as an company in the SaaS domain is doing in the IT industry. Uh, so that's it. That's pretty much it. I think it sums up the whole thing that we do. But as we move forward, I would like to explain more on that.
Right. So, I mean, as both of you have mentioned your views, what I understand is this is the adaptiveness within the HR function is what the agile methodology is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Approach and prioritize the speed of the responsiveness that we can
Mhm.
say.
Yeah, right. Whoever
Perfect.
comes it is not about whoever is the strongest or the fastest. It is whoever adapts fastest. So that's
Correct.
the new definition of agile, I think.
Correct. Correct. I was reading one article over on internet yesterday, and
Mhm.
I got to know. I mean, they mentioned like why dinosaur died. They
Mhm.
have declared it very simple way. They have not adopted the change, right? And this
Right.
is how again the organization have to adopt the changes and to make it more streamlined, and it is that important to them. Even
Mhm.
if you, I mean, both of you are from the software industry. If I talk about softwares, right? If we have got some requirement from our client, let's say
Right.
you want to design a app like WhatsApp, just wanted to make it more simple to our audience. Let's say if we have got a computer app where they wanted to make it like WhatsApp, right? So what WhatsApp does, WhatsApp is having a chat and video calling, payment transfer facility. And to make it, it will take time, maybe 1 year or 2 years time, right? But in an agile methodology, what they'll do is they'll just make it in segment. They'll segment it. Let's say in a month's time, they'll just there's an app wherein you can just send in S messages. Next second month, they'll add a video recording it, right? So that the even that client will get something every month. No, he's not waiting for a year's time. And this is how the agile works. I think if you correct me if I'm wrong in that.
Yeah, that's what document is. And I think for the benefit of audience, I can add to that is the best example of agile can be the Google, we can say. Take for example, Google has started in 2001. At that time, the Google was very different from what it looks today. And why this has happened is the agile, their ability to adapt to the changes. Like every day, people search on Google, and Google learns every day about their audience, their people on a daily basis, and they adapt to that into their methodologies, technologies, etc., across their organizations. So this phase of learning every day is nothing but agility, is nothing but the agile methodology, we can say. And in the audience, I think most of people understand how Google evolves and understands them as as we read every day about the how AI is evolving, etc. In that, how AI is evolving is in Google, we can particularly say is by way of adaptability.
Correct.
Adaptability. They understand every day what people are searching, and they just adapt to that change. And
Correct.
like that, Google has evolved, and now we can see that there is no alternative to Google.
Correct.
In many parts of the world today, Google is the internet, the default
Correct.
internet, we can say. So that is what
Def-
agility is all about, I think. And uh, nowadays, the size is not mattering. Let me tell you that from our own experience at Anuyat. Size as in size of the organization or the financial heft is not only just important. The more important thing is how the organization can adapt to the client requirements. Because most of the times when client is come up with any product, like suppose say just recently we have seen the news like government of India is starting with the airwaves auction, right? The spectrum auction. So herein we can see that the scope of the possibilities of the evolution of the telecom domain and IT domain in IT industry in particular, we can see that it's going to revolutionize even further. So that means that what we see as a technology or as the industry standard today of the digital adaptation in different industries, that is going to increase by at least 100 times in next 10 years. So you can see the possible possibilities, the
right.
multiplication of possibilities. And in such an environment, if people are not adapting, if organizations are not adapting, if the HR specifically are not adapting, then they will not be able to hire right particular set of talent, right talent. I can give an example of recently we have hired few candidates in the um, a particular domain of technology. Okay, I would not like to mention the specific things, but generally I can say that we have been trying to hire people for a particular project. Okay, and by the time I had the requirements and I have started the process of hiring, the requirement changed suddenly. So in that team, we can say that there was a chaos in the hiring department. But then again, we have to adapt to the change. So that is what is happening on the daily basis. Why that is happening is because a requirement is changing on daily basis at the client end. And if the client is changing requirement, as an organization, you have to adopt. If you don't adopt, then you might lose on many good things like the revenue. So that is what I can say about the
Uh, Thank
this
you.
particular.
Thank you so much, Pravin, for your views on this. I have a next question for you guys. How Agile HR is different from traditional HR? Maybe Preeti, if you can start with.
Mhm.
I think Praveen has mentioned with a lot of clarity. That why, like, relating to the very first question, that why, we as an HR people, because HR is someone who is a people oriented person. Okay, so according to me, what I feel is speaking about your question, if you talk about traditional HR and agile HR, Pravin was very much focused on to saying that, traditional HR doesn't exist as of now. If you speak more particularly, traditional HR is getting extended. The reason being is why? Because it takes more time. It takes ample of time. A very basic thing, if you initiate with the very first thing, then it's going to take an entire, a financial year to, get the results done. So the traditional thing takes a very long time. But if you talk about agile thing, agile is, if I speak about into a very simple terms, that is something, if you have something into a very complex form, you can just simplify it more and more into fragments. That is how agile works. If like for example, if you have a very big goal, not achieving that big goal in just one go, but just breaking that into a particular this thing, and like when you break it into fragments, automatically from the initial stage, we start developing with the results. So there is no harm in adapting agile technology. So yes, there is a major difference between the agile and the traditional thing, because agile works in a very fluent manner, you can say, in a very swift manner. The reason being is that it works into fragments. There is no need to particularly focus on just one particular aspect, and then just wait for the entire results for a longer period of time. If a particular task has been given to someone, it might take time, but like evaluating frequently is one of the aspects which you can do it. So this particularly gives us some clarity of vigilance, that what is to be done into the future goals. So yes, there is a difference. Traditional agile HR is completely different than the traditional, and yes, like we as an IT people should definitely go for following this agile methodology which has been there. I'll just highlighting one example, whether it comes to talent acquisition, whether it comes to HR operations, the agile methodology makes life much more easier. Like for example, if you're going to talent acquisitions, instead of hiring 100 people at a time, we can just go for hiring 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. Assumingly we can get all the goals which we are expecting. And if you talk about HR operations is also the same, whether it may be any appraisals, whether it may be anything related to this thing, but that can be broken into agile. So this is what I feel, that there is a difference between these two of them, and both work into a particular manner. But we being an IT oriented people, we should morely be focused towards the agile methodology of HR. So yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Wonderful.
I would like to add to that.
Yeah. Yes, Pravin.
Yeah. So see, what traditional method involved was by looking at the requirement at the end. Like if suppose I needed a mean stack candidate by the end of the day in the traditional method, then what I would do is just understand what the requirement is for the particular project. I know that it is mean. Then I would form the whole of the JD for it. Then I'll go to the market, pick up the candidates, take the interview, and hire that candidate. It's the general process. But now in Agile, what has happened is the differentiation or the silos of this whole process have been. There are no boundaries now. We can say that by the time we have the JD and we start the process, maybe the requirement has changed. Like we needed the mean candidate, but now we need the mean candidate who has also been learning the Flutter technology. We might also need the candidate who has known all these things and also need the experience of project management. So that is the thing that is happening nowadays. Like we need people who can adapt to the changes. So it is not just anymore about the company or organization or the processes. It is also is applicable nowadays to people. People have to agile, means people have to be adaptable to changes. Even if the requirement changes, people need to be at that stage wherein they can just make the transition and go to the new technology, or make a transition and do the new job that is there at the hand.
Right. So my next question was into application only. Like the question is, how does the agile method apply to HR and people leadership? That's what the next question is.
Maybe I have summed it. I'll like Preeti.
Preeti, if you can throw some light on this.
Yes, Vinay. So answering, like, speaking specifically about your question, as you told me, the agile method, like how it can be applied into HR and something. So, see, if you talk about, I would repeat the same thing again and again, that agile is something which is very quick and which is very swift, and that needs to be, achieved into a very shorter goals. Okay, if you talk
Right.
about traditional this thing, it comes with a restriction that it has a strict hierarchy. That a traditional thing has a strict hierarchy, that this should be followed in this particular manner. There is a particular set of process, which needs to be followed and which is by a mandate. But if you talk about agile like in the very initial talk, as I already mentioned, that agile is something which comes with a responsiveness and an adaptiveness along with the feedback. Okay, like highlighting my previous answer also, I was like very clear, that if you have a particular goal and that goal is to be achieved, and that is to be achieved in fragments, that is agile. Okay, but when you talk about traditional things, it comes with a particular bondage and it comes with a particular set of processes that it should be done in this particular manner only. But agile is something, where we personally as an individual can set a goal for own self as well as for the team. Okay, and that is something very rapidly, because if like I was just reading an article which was related to, like, Harvard has published one of the article which specifically mentioned that when you give that employee the particular liberty that he or she can work into an agile manner by setting goals for own self, that somewhat brings the better results. Even it may be for the leadership purpose, even it may be for the managers, even it may be for the any higher authority. So that becomes much more easier because it has a particular adaptiveness. So that is one
True.
thing which I would like to mention. So yeah.
True, Preeti, true. Very well said. I'm getting questions from the participants. I'll ask all these questions at the end of this session.
Hmm.
Okay. So my next question again is for Pravin. What is the impact of Agile HR on existing performance management, talent, and planning systems?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Let me say that. Uh, at the talent management and the, what we can say it as, the promotions and etc. So those things have also been changing. What we have observed is nowadays people are expecting more, but that is because they have lot of opportunities, first thing. And means there were a lot of opportunities, let me say that, because since last few days that has been changing, the opportunities have been reducing. We have been observing that on the larger scale, but that is in the traditional way. In the, if we take the more wide technological range, then the opportunities are going to increase. So so that is why people, since people are adapting to more, they have more opportunities, they are seeing more opportunities, they have seen more opportunities in last 2 years. So the performance management and the expectations have changed. Like companies also expecting people to adapt to the changes. Like they want people to relearn or learn and upgrade their skills, and they are also expecting people to manage multiple tasks in the same time period. So that is actually having the lot of burden on people, and that is also adding to their expectations, like people's expectations. If it is pretty obvious that if I have, or if any employee has worked for, let's say, 10 or 15 hours a day to deliver the project during the pandemic, then it is obvious that they expect more. So this what traditionally used to happen was just the review thing. The people used to give the self review, then manager used to review that person's work and just give the feedback, and the appraisals were done. But nowadays what people are doing is they are just pushing the reviews, the self reviews, but they are also privately conveying to their child that I'm expecting these many things, and if I get those, I'll stay or I'll leave. So those kind of things are happening. So that is why the HR department is not only working in traditional way, it has been working in the non-traditional way. I think you, uh, as from the company campus, knows it very well. So these
Yeah.
things are, yeah. So these things are happening, and this has been formally being adopted at the management level. Let me put it that way. So the particular process is not yet set, because the experience is just of 2 3 years. Means earlier there were people are moving to the agility, to this kind of methods, but this process has been happening currently. Means this has been happening for just last 2 3 years, So the formalized process of the traditional way is not set in this particular kind of environment. So I think it will take some time, but yes, these new things, new expectations, etc., will be formalized in the new policies, and maybe then we can discuss these things again, maybe next year or so.
Perfect. Perfect. Preeti, do you second this opinion or you have some different views on this?
Yes, I mean, I completely, I'm okay with whatever Pravin has said. But as I told you, agile methodology, if it impacts the performance management, a very easy example I would like to give you, that if a particular manager is frequently able to evaluate his employee, that how the employee is doing, what are the parameters on which I'm supposed to, evaluate the particular employee, that becomes much more easier for a manager. But if it takes a longer period of time to evaluate, then that becomes a challenge, that on what parameters I'm supposed to evaluate my employee. Okay, so this is where the agile kicks in, and this is where the agile comes in, that performance management is completely okay whenever we use it in agile HR. Okay, so it obviously creates a better impact when you use it into an agile form. So it obviously creates a positive impact.
Perfect.
The parameters are daily changing, so this is pretty much happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Correct. So my next question is for Pravin. How can you take informal practices that could be considered agile, like set up more formalized?
Mhm. Yeah, that's also a very good question. That is what I was talking in the last question. Like there are many non-traditional things are happening, and if 3 years back you have said to me that this thing will be happening in the near future, I would not believe it. But this is what has been happening in every HR department, in every company. Let me put it that I have a few friends in the MNCs, in the HR departments, and it is happening with them also. Like in the, I would not like to take many names, but just few I can take. TCS, Infosys, in these MNCs also, Accenture, all these things, non-traditional things are happening. Earlier, if you would have directly conveyed to your HR that I have the other offer and you need to negotiate with me or I'll leave. So the many companies would have said just leave. But that is not happening today. People, the HR department is listening to people and trying to adapt to the requirements, trying to adapt to the changes that, trying to adapt to the expectations that people have. And it is happening at every level in every company. So these are non-traditional methods, of course, informal methods happening at the informal level and then being just written down in the formal words. So this is happening, but how these things are getting formalized, I don't know about many companies, but in our organization, we have certain very good processes at the managerial level, at the team level, and at the management level. And the HR department is mostly just being the bridge between all these people. Like, what is the expectation? What the manager is expecting of the people? How can the requirements can be matched? And can these requirements and the matching of expectation is accepted by the management? So this coordination has been the new informal thing that the HR is doing, and we have formalized it also. Like we have been taking the feedback from everybody and trying to match it to the expectation of everybody. So this way, I think every organization can make the formal transition to the from the informal transition or the informal things that are happening.
Correct. So you correctly said, Pravin. I mean, maybe this is due to the high demand of especially these IT resources in the market. As you said, I mean, you cannot force them to stay with you, or they'll start job hunting if you push them for anything. So the market is again changed and it is the candidate oriented now. And even if they go in the market, they'll have 5-4 job offers easily in their hand. It is not that difficult to them to get a job, get a new job.
Yeah, but that was the phase at a quite large extent during last 2 years. Maybe, let me put it that till the March of 2022. But what we have been observing in last 4 months is that thing is changing. Though it is
Correct.
slow, the thing is changing. Like earlier, if people have 4-5 offers, now they are just 2-3. So the trend is declining, but
Yeah.
it cannot be predicted that when it will come to the previous stage. Maybe it will never come
Maybe
to the
5, 10 years down the line, again trend will
yeah,
change.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Right.
Right. So Preeti, just want to hear from you as well.
Yes, sure, Vinay. So if you particularly talk about, the informal practices, what I feel is, the informal practices are being formalized, of course, but a very basic set of this thing when you apply, the informal practices, I have heard, like when I was going through many of the articles, I had just read one article which said that, many of the employees who are applying Agile HR, especially the HR department, they are basically, applying for the try and learn approach. Whenever you're adapting the agile methodology, it is never a harm for any one of us in the organization, because it is at a very initial level and just because you are evaluating it at every stage. So if you talk about this, the learn and the try and learn approach is that, if you try and if you approach, automatically the things are going to come into under a set of processes and it will make the process go into a very swift manner. So this is one thing which comes into an informal way. If you talk about the formal way, there are many organizations which adopt different methodologies. Some of them adopt, different agile methodologies like Kanban. Kanban is specifically used majorly for operations people. The operations people majorly use Kanban. They also use Scrum. Okay, they also use as agile different things. These are the methodologies and these are the this thing which they use it appropriately into a particular organization just to make it work fluently. So if you talk about the formal way of working and the informal way of working, I cannot tell you that, we have moved from informal to formal or formal to informal, because we use it both vice versa, depending upon the situation and depending upon what exactly we are working on. Okay, so there are also informal ways where we might, we need to try something new and we need to approach something new. And there are ways where we need to have our own parameters, where we need to have our own Kanban, own Agile, own Scrum. So that is a different thing. So this is what I think, it is not moved from informal to formal or vice versa, but depends entirely upon the scenarios.
Yeah, maybe I would like to add on that. As in the Agile methodology, in the software development that they have, the user stories that were defined, like in the means the method of agility, they have the user stories, like they are directly from the product owner and the client, and now they analyze the stories and do decide the task priorities, and they directly build the code and deploy it, etc. And they try to deliver the particular user stories there and there only, like one after the other, directly to the getting results to the client. So same thing is happening in the HR department. Like we have the requirements from the people, okay, but those requirements are not always concrete. They might change with the time. Like in the week's time, I can say that requirement has mostly changed, and that is because the client requirement has changed. Like if suppose client was just expecting us to build application, just the mobile application or just the Android part of it, Android application, then the client might also want the Android plus iOS application. Then again, that client may also want the Android plus iOS plus then again web platform for it. And then maybe considering all this, client may also want the uh, whole storage of all the data that is going to be generated at his end only. So you can see that the technological requirement is changing on a daily basis. Like client just needed first the Android, which would have been just used with the single kind of technology. Then they need the React kind of technology in it. Then they also need the database technologies to do it, cloud technologies, different technologies to be used, and they also need the hardware support. So uh, these things would have been taken a lot of time, like maybe 2 to 3 years to deliver all these things to a particular single client. But now client expect all those things to be delivered in quarters, not years. Like in 2 quarters or 3 quarters, client want the end-to-end product to be delivered. So this requirement is changing on daily basis. So that is why the HR department and the whole of the IT industry, if I may say, needs to adapt to these changes. And only if these changes are adopted in the IT industries, in the companies, they will be able to serve client better and stay at the top of the game.
Correct. Wonderful. So, Pravin, like now we spoke about agile methodology, in HR. I just wanted to know about how can training HR, marketing, sales these functions develop and become more agile?
Mhm. That's very good question. So in the HR, I can say from the first hand experience, all these
Yes,
things.
yes.
But in the sales and marketing, since I have been working with these teams also in a close proximity,
I think you
I
have
can
business development experience as well.
yeah. So that is why I can say that these people are also been doing that previously, like you yourself in the business development domain. So you know that the requirement and the expectation changes on daily basis. Like if
Correct.
you might have to uh, uh, develop the business or do the sales in a particular kind of domain, like in the you have the people who are already expert in the mean, and you have to place them to the particular project. But
Correct.
the people, if there is no requirement, then you may have to ask people to adopt to the new technology, get reskilled, and maybe then you will be able to place them with either of those. So those things
Right.
are happening in every domain. So this feedback mechanism is happening at every department in every organization. Like in HR, it is happening obviously. In sales marketing, it is happening. In marketing, if you are not getting the results, like you have put on the you have been running the campaigns on, let's say, Google, Facebook, etc., Twitter, anywhere you are running on the digital channels the particular kind of campaign, and if you are not getting the results, let me put it that way, that you are not running that campaign again, you are directly changing that thing. So you are adapting to the changes, like you don't have the results, you are changing the methodologies, you are changing the tactics. And this is happening on a weekly basis. Earlier it used to happen on the quarterly basis. Like if you are not getting the results, the management used to push you on the marketing side that you do it again, you do it on large scale, you do it on different audience, try it on different things. So now they are directly saying that change the campaign immediately. So this has been happening in the marketing, and in the sales also it is happening. Like if you are not getting the results from particular kind of domain, let's say you are not getting leads from the European countries, move to the Americans. If you are not, they are not comfortable with that, just get the feedback like which market needs the particular kind of technology, move to the Asian economy, move to the Asian
Of,
countries,
of,
try lead from there. So these kind of things are happening. And from this we can say that every department is adapting, but they do not know yet that this is the agility. Agility is this thing that they are doing on a daily basis. So still these are all informal things, but they will get formalized as people evolve their understanding of the agile methodology.
yeah, you made it very simple to understand, Pravin, with this example. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank
Preeti,
you.
your views, please.
I think Vinay, you have already mentioned that Praveen has actually made it much more easier to understand.
Yes.
But I would just like to add on. I would like to specifically, I am able to tell you about HR and training because I was also into learning and development, where I found out that the learning and development actually, and the training and development actually requires the things to be agile. Because you get a training need identification, and then you verify, and then you have a training, and then you take a feedback. So it actually takes a ample of time. So just to reduce that particular time frame, the thing should be done in an agile way. And if you talk about the marketing sector or the sales sector, we all are very familiar, even though we are into IT sectors, we all are very familiar with this term, that people in sales and people in whatever marketing field, they have a huge targets. Okay, so meeting those targets sometimes, it becomes a challenge. So just to simplify and just to apply agile into this particular two domains, we can easily specify that, break the targets into smaller fragments. I am just saying this since the starting of the webinar, that, if the marketing or if the sales would, apply agile, the life would be much more easier, because that would help them at the end, eventually, to achieve greater targets. So if I was just going through Google organization, even the marketing department in Google, you speak Accenture, you speak, be it Infosys, be it anyone who is into the marketing department, currently they have started a trend which is called as a stand-up call. Every day it is just a 5 minute of a meeting, 5 to 10 minutes of a meeting, where they specify what is to be done and what not is to be done, and a particular goal is being set to that particular team. The team achieves the goal, and eventually the result comes out, and the results eventually contribute to the final results that we want to have. So I think this becomes, and this makes life much more easier. Of course, the marketing and the sales do not have complete agile this thing, because complete agile methodology, they do not follow it. They obviously follow it into the IT sectors, but that has not been followed completely into the sales and marketing departments. So that sometimes becomes a challenge. But yes, if we apply them into their own domains, it is going to be a benefit for them, and it is going to eventually increase and grow their business like anything. Because in the initiation, I also said that agile is just not limited for HR or the software development or the IT people. It is actually given to everyone. Anyone can apply agile methodology and achieve a better result. So yeah, that is what I have to say.
Vinay?
Perfect, very well. Sorry about that. So I have a final question for you guys, and then we can start with audience questions. Right. The question is, how can HR help with agile implementation throughout the business?
I think I have put it in the one of the previous questions. Like what HRs currently are doing is they are acting as, or they are catalyzing the process of feedback mechanism. The feedback loop that we know in the technology domain. So that loop, we can say HR department is acting as a catalyst for all those things. Like they are taking the feedback from every level of people, and they are trying to integrate that feedback into the new methods. So what HR can do henceforth is, or HRs are doing, let me put it that way. HRs are currently putting all these things into the work. Like they are getting the feedback from, let's say, new trainees. They are conveying that to the different managers. Like if the trainees are expecting to be trained more on particular kind of technology, then they are conveying the same to the trainers. Then the trainers are getting the same feedback from the managerial level, like who are currently working on the projects, and the managerial level people are giving feedback to the management. So these kind of things are happening. Like the feedback thing that earlier used to happen on the quarterly basis now is happening on a daily basis. So what HR can do is be aware, get all this feedback, and try to convey it to the appropriate platform and get it implemented for the benefit of the organization at every level. Like it can be just like getting the expectations right and matched with the organization's goals and vision mission.
Correct. So now we have done with the questions. Thank you so much, both of you, for your views on this. And I just wanted to take the audience questions now. Let's start with Shweta Zamwar. She's asking how to transform into Agile HR. I mean, I think these things we have already cleared, but still, if we can just throw some light.
Actually, that's very good question. But I think we need to simplify it further. Like earlier, we have the discussion wherein I think more HR people have understood, who have the first-hand experience of the HR department. But for the benefit of general people, I can say uh, what is how one can transform into the Agile HR. We can say that just be aware and try to listen to everything that is going on. Earlier, we used to ignore this chatter, but henceforth, don't ignore it. Just listen to whatever you are listening in the organization, and see how that chatter or how that feedback that you have got can be implemented or can be acted upon. So if you do that, I think you're already an Agile HR.
Okay.
So just adding on to the point of Pravin, transforming into Agile HR is, of course, it's a very major and it's the need of the time. But like exactly, you can't cannot call it as transforming completely into an Agile sector. The reason being is because once you start with an initial stage, automatically that is going to make you Agile. So the very benefit of the Agile, the very benefit of the Agile is that you don't need to have a stress or particular burden. Ki this should happen in this particular manner, because even if it doesn't happen, it's not going to hamper business into a very large scale. Okay, it can be, the things can go wrong, but that can be rectified at a very minimum level and then can be sorted, and then next level can be taken. So in this way, you cannot transform into Agile into just one go. It is a step-by-step process. So just go by the steps. So that is what I have to say.
Right. Yeah, so I got a very interesting question now. Yeah. I mean, Pravin, you were saying something.
Yeah. Just to add to that, means what we can say. as an HR, just listen to the people, and if you are listening to the people and adapting to that, you are already HR. So actually, I forgot. So that's why
Right, right.
repeating this.
Fine, fine.
Yeah.
So I have got a very interesting question. Now we have discussed about all the benefits of Agile. Now the question is, what new challenges does Agile bring?
Hmm. And this question is from.
I didn't get the name here.
Okay. Okay. So, uh, can you please repeat the question again?
What new challenges does Agile bring? So what are the benefits? The one question, the benefits
Yeah.
we have already discussed.
Yeah.
Now, what are the challenges we does bring?
Challenges are, let me put it this way, that there are a lot of challenges if you are an agile HR. Like you, actually, most of the times you are not clear in the thought process, like what is required at every level. Many a times people, I'm not just talking about the HR department now. I'm talking about the whole of the industry, as in on the client basis also. Many of the time, when we get the projects or when we approach the people or the startups approach the IT companies for development of their products like EMVPs, developing their own ideas. So at that time, what is happening is they don't know what is the requirement currently. Like if suppose anybody wants to develop an product, let's say, uh, okay, so they want to develop a particular kind of product, but they when their idea is not clear, they try to just put it that I want an e-commerce platform. So this is the general requirement, if say of a startup. They come to us and they want this particular kind of platform. Then we found the particular requirement, and as the requirement is evolving, they tell you that I want an e-commerce platform like Amazon. Once that is done, they want the Amazon to also include the Kirana stores into them, like the Reliance is doing. So these kind of things are happening. So these are the real challenges that an agile person faces, like agile methodologies has or gets people to tackle too. As in, you don't have the clear cut requirements. So most of the times you have to change the things that you're already doing. So this is the main challenge. And if this is generalized answer, but this is the main challenge that people face in the agile methodologies. Maybe Preeti can add to that.
With yours.
Yes, I'll just highlight it. Change is painful, of course. But whenever you're adapting to agile, the biggest challenge that basically the HRs face is that if you are adapting for a particular agile function, it is very difficult for an HR people, to immediately have a cross-functional thing and just to implement things. Challenge
Very
comes
true.
at implementation. When you plan something, of course, planning is not at all difficult. What is the challenging part is, you have to implement that particular thing. So that is one of the challenge which human resources faces a lot, whether it may be talent acquisition, whether it may be learning and development, whether it may be operations. Everyone faces a challenge while, adapting this new changes. So this is what I feel, that, implementation somewhat, and, sometimes it happens that, we plan certain things in a very agile manner, but sometimes they don't work out. The reason being is that there is a problem at the implementation, because you don't get that level of like support, or that level of this thing from your side, that this should be implemented in a proper manner. Even if you're planning something for your performance management, a very basic example I would like to give you. If you take an appraisal system, that is actually a financial year, yearly wise appraisal system. But just if you try to make it agile, and if you try to have it in every 3 months or 6 months or frequently, oftenly, that is obviously going to be a challenge for the human resource people. So yes, implementation is one of the biggest challenge.
Correct, correct. Very true, very true. So we are done with the audience question as well. I'd just like to thank Pravin and Preeti for your time on Saturday, and giving your valuable insights on the particular topic. So for audience, we do podcast HR related topics every Saturday 11:30. You can have this recording on our company page, LinkedIn page, or you can also this is live on YouTube as well. So you can go and can watch this video again. So
Sure.
thank you audience as well for participating on this event on Saturday, and that's all from my side.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. Thank you for inviting me to
Thank you.
this.
Thank you,
very good
Vinay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, have a great
Bye.
day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.